Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is your brother, I pray, Yahya Bandele. Welcome to the C.O.F.A.H News Network. I thank the Father for the opportunity to bring the news to you on a weekly basis, and that we can cover globally what's happening within the world from a Hebrew Israelite perspective, using the scriptures as our guide. Before we go any further, let's go to our Father in prayer. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, in the name of our brother Messiah, Yahshua, I come. Father, I thank you, Father, for the people. Thank you, Father, for touching them and allowing them, Father, to hear this word and that they can be able to understand it, Father, that they can see and perceive it, Father. That, Father, we're living in these days that are the conclusion of times. Father, I pray, Father, we will walk and not be weary, running out of faith. Open their minds, Father, they would know that you are the reason why we are here. Father, let your love enter into them, Father, that they would look and they will understand that they are here, for they are the preachers and the teachers and those who need to be born again, Father, that they should hear and know that the word can set them free. And Father, know that Yahshua came to redeem the children of Israel, the true Hebrew Israelites, so we could tell the world about your love. Father, bless this news broadcast, bless the C.O.F.A.H Network, and bless each and every one, Father, who is viewing this telecast. In the name of our brother and Messiah Yahshua, I pray. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Brothers and sisters, in the news today, we see that the United States of America, the powers of the West and the ruler of the world, has sent a battery of missile defense systems to the Korean Peninsula. And reported by the Guardian newspaper of the United Kingdom, it says, U.S. deploys missile defense system to counter real danger from North Korea. Former Senator, now the Defense Secretary of the United States of America, Chuck Hagel, says Pyongyang poses real and clear danger to U.S. allies as Pentagon sends battery of missile defense systems, aka Iron Domes, to Guam to strengthen defenses. And so these are the things that you may say, well, why is the United States doing this? Why are they acting like this nation can actually pose a threat to them? And that question, brothers and sisters, is one of the reasons why we have to look at the news from a Hebrew Israelite perspective. Because North Korea is standing its ground. And understand, North Korea has massive sanctions against it. Food, it's a food embargo on this nation. The commodities can't come in. The people are not, they're not connected to the rest of the world. The United States and its Western allies has put a bubble around North Korea. North Korea still does business outside of the legal realms of the United States with nations like Iran and China and some other nations that secretly still try to help these folks in North Korea from starving. And so it's important to understand why this provocation, why this so-called provoking, that I'm claiming that's provoking. You may say, well, you may disagree with me. You say, yeah, I don't believe that the United States is provoking North Korea. Well, with that being said, if you think that, I want you to watch this clip from ABC News from Diane Sawyer, where she's going to, well, you see for yourself. We'll be right back.
Propaganda and a menacing video from North Korea, which claims to have moved into, quote, combat posture to strike at the United States. ABC senior global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz is on her way to South Korea and reports tonight from Kabul.
In the newest propaganda video, the North Koreans threatening a massive rocket and artillery attack on South Korea, with thousands of follow-on troops invading the country. It comes as North Korea has ordered all its strategic rockets and long-range artillery units put on the highest alert, ready to hit American military targets, they say, in South Korea, where the U.S. has more than 28,000 troops, in Guam, where there are more than 6,000, and even in Hawaii, where nearly 115,000 American forces are based. One person tracking these threats closely told me tonight this could turn into a real crisis, and America could find itself in the kind of conflict with North Korea it has long tried to avoid.
Brothers and sisters, the question that we may have to ask ourselves is, why is the greatest military and economic power in the world provoking the North Korean regime? I submit to you that the greatest threat to Barack to President Barack Hussein Obama, who is that man of sin that the scriptures talked about and proclaimed that he will come. And he is not a Neanderthal of sin. He's not a Denisovan of sin. He's not a Gentile of sin. He is a man of sin. And that man of sin is ushering in the conclusion of days. And this is why we read, and I'm going to read, matter of fact, let's go to Daniel, the 11th chapter, the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter, and we're going to begin reading at the 40th verse. And this is what it says. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots and cavalry and a great fleet of ships. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood. And he will also invade the beautiful land, which is the land of Israel, our homeland, brothers and sisters. He will invade the beautiful land. Many countries will fall, but Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. When you read Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon, you're talking about the king of Jordan, the leaders of Jordan. That whole territory is Jordan, as you see on the maps in front of you now. He will extend, verse 42, he will extend his power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. He will gain control over the treasures of gold and silver and all the riches of Egypt, with the Libyans and the Cushites in submission. But reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in great rage to destroy and annihilate many. Brothers and sisters, what I just read to you hearing was verse 40 through verse 44. And when you're looking and you understand what you're looking at, you're seeing that the nations in the southern hemisphere, those nations in the northern hemisphere, those nations in the eastern hemisphere is coming against this man of sin. Why? So, well, you didn't mention the western hemisphere because the United States of America is the western hemisphere. The man of sin he lives in the western hemisphere. The western hemisphere is where Satan's seat is. And so the greatest threat to Satan's seat is a nation, is a continent called Asia. And if Asia is able to come together in a order of, like NATO does, how the North American nations do, or how all the Western powers are doing, and they come together economically and militarily and politically, then this, as a united Asian continent, that continent is a great threat to the rulership of the world that the synagogue of Satan has invested within this man of sin. And so this is why you will see World War III break out in that area, and this is why you're watching these missile defense shields being sent to that area. You may say, what is the missile defense shields? Well, look at this clip so we all could be on the same page. I'll be right back.
What we're looking at is basically one of the 5 Iron Dome missile batteries. Its goal is to, as much as possible, intercept rockets which have been launched towards the cities of Israel, to intercept them in the middle of the way, in the air, in order to protect the people.
כן, נופלים. אבל לא, גם מיירטים אותם את הרוב, אני יודע. יש אבל פיצוצים, יש פיצוצים.
נעבור אליי.
הנה האזעקה, חבל לא צילמת את האזעקה.
בוא איתנו, בוא.
בוא איתנו, בוא.
תשמע איזה פיצוצים.
וואי, זה פה, ידבע. וואי, וואי, זה פה, יא גנוב.
בוא, כנסו.
בוא, זה פה, קירי. זה הכיפת ברזל נראה לי, לא? כן. וואי.
לפני כיפת ברזל היה מה זה מפחיד, אבל היום אנחנו ממש בביטחון, אנחנו מרגישים וגם שומעים את הכיפה, בום, איך היא מורידה אותם, ואחר כך יוצאים, רואים את כל הזה.
It is very successful. I would say around 90% of the interceptions we wanted to make, we make.
All right, brothers and sisters, so you see what the missile defense shield is. And you may say, well, you know, what does that have to do with North Korea? I mean, North Korea is no threat. Well, you know their technology. They don't have missiles that can travel 6,000 miles to the mainland of the United States of America. No, they know what China do. And understand that, please understand that the rulers of the world like chess players. The United States of America, they know full well they're not going to pay back China the $1.3 trillion and counting that they owe them. They know that's not going to happen. They also understand that they're not going to allow China to continue to trade openly with Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa, with those BRICS nations. And you're gonna see a clip on that in a little while. And so this is a threat to the United States, where these nations and the world cannot conglomerate around China and Russia. The United States will stop that. And they're using this man from North Korea, this young kid who obviously don't know any better, and they're allowing him to bark and cry and make threats. So now they can use him as the excuse of putting all those missile defense systems right by China's door. And they're using this young kid, this young man. Yes, he's the ruler of the world. Ruler of North Korea. In his world, that's the world. And he's the ruler at 28, 29 years old. Now understanding that they will allow him to bark and to make these noises and make these provocations, knowing that he has no technology to get a missile here. But they will use him to surround China in that Pacific theater, which will be a military theater very soon. And those Asian countries, which are economically a threat to the ruling worlds of the Europeans, of those who the old Roman Empire. World War III will usher in that area, and they're using this young kid to do so. Because economically speaking, brothers and sisters, when I say that the United States are in debt to China, China has bought over 1.3 trillion of the United States debt. Now, not only that, but the Washington Times is reporting. The writer for this story was Grady Means. He's the former assistant to Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, and a former economist at the U.S. Department of Health and Education and Welfare. The Washington Times is reporting that the United States economy will crash March 4th, 2014. U.S. economy may fully crash around the date, which will in turn bring down all world economies and all hope of any recovery for the foreseeable future. Certainly over the course of most of our lifetimes, interest rates will skyrocket, businesses will fail, unemployment will go to record levels, material and food shortages will be rampant, and there could be a major social unrest. Any wishful thinking that America is in a recovery and that things are getting better is an illusion. Paul Volcker, who one of the leading economists in the world, indicates we might face a mess like this in the next year and a half. David Walker, former U.S. Comptroller, i.e. the former chief accountant of the U.S. government, has suggested similar timeframes for economic catastrophe. And so the world knows it. And since the world knows it, and the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency, and the United States is the military giant of the world, and Barack Hussein Obama is that man of sin that the world's been waiting for, and the world is going to go through a transition, a change, where people won't be able to buy or sell because the economy of the world will crash. And there are powers in Brazil, there are powers in Russia, there are powers in India, there are powers in China, there's powers in South Africa with all that gold and natural resources and minerals. They're all coming together to try to mitigate the fall of the giant, and that the world won't be under that rule of a bunch of bankers from Wall Street, a bunch of Jews who make up the synagogue of Satan, and this man of sin, President Barack Hussein Obama. Check out this report from Russian television, and so you can see what they're trying to do.
The world's giant emerging economies are gathering in South Africa, looking to reshape their BRICS organization. Leaders of Brazil, Russia, China, India, and of course the host nation are all at the summit, with Egypt's President Morsi. He's set to attend. He's hoping to join the bloc in the not-too-distant future. Reporting now, RT's Alexei Rashevsky, reporting ultimately on the expectations for strengthening the group.
Since its inception in 2009, many have been wondering what BRICS is all about, a symbol of growing global multipolarity or a counterweight to the EU and NATO. The leaders of the member states have been cautiously downplaying its role, saying this alliance is purely economic and exists mostly on verbal agreements. Officially, it's not even a legally bound international organization. The BRICS leaders are only now contemplating setting up headquarters in one of the capitals. But just look at every BRICS country separately. Russia, the world's largest minerals exporter. China, the world's second largest economy and the source of a cheap labor force. India, cheap intellectual resources. Brazil, with its enormously powerful agricultural sector. And the Republic of South Africa, the continent's leader in natural resources. Put the country's economic stats together, the numbers are nothing short of impressive. Last year, the BRICS countries averaged a 4% GDP growth, whilst the G7 countries came up with only 0.7%. And their collective gross national product already exceeds 27% of the global output. And this economic might of the Group of Five could diversify into a joint BRICS development bank. This idea appeared during last year's summit in New Delhi, and there are certain indications this year's meeting in Durban could pave way to its creation. Should this prove to be the case, the world may see a new, powerful financial institution.
We are now on the verge of a formal decision. It would be a substantial, in terms of capital and paid capital, a substantial new international institution. This development bank is probably one of the major deliverables. Having BRICS more and more prominent in the area of economy, international finance, the development of infrastructure.
The common standpoint among the BRICS states on major international issues could also be a huge factor in global geopolitics. The war in Syria is just one of the examples. The Group of Five has been insisting on a peaceful solution to the conflict, and with Moscow and Beijing firmly standing within the UN Security Council against any military intervention. No wonder, experts say, Bashar Assad recently asked the Group of Five to help bring the conflict to an end. Many experts believe that despite BRICS being an informal group, its geopolitical weight is already very high.
As for political role of BRICS, it's quite huge. Actually, now the major international institution which present the whole humankind in solving economic problems, for example, is G20. I think at this point, the decisions of G20 are predetermined by the position of BRICS.
So BRICS has yet to become an officially established organization, but the Russian president already said cooperation within this bloc will be Moscow's top foreign priority this year. And considering that at least 5 countries, including Mexico, Indonesia and Egypt, are willing to join, the world may soon see a powerful alliance of developing economies, which experts say, even in its current configuration, may become the world's wealthiest union of states in 30 years.
All right, brothers and sisters, so you know what these BRICS nations are all about and what they're trying to do. And everything has to do with scriptures. When you look back at what I read to you in Daniel 11th chapter, in the 44th verse, check this out now. But reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in great rage to destroy and annihilate many. Please keep this in mind, brothers and sisters, when you look at the BRICS nations. When it goes and he says that the north and the east will alarm him. The east and the north will alarm him, will cause him to lose some sleep. Who's him? President Barack Hussein Obama. And what will alarm him? The fact that in the north is the Russian bear. The hold of much of the minerals and within the world. They're collaborating with these other nations. They're in the north. They're upset about China. They're upset about North Korea. They're upset about Pakistan, which you see the articles right in front of you, that the United States said they will punish Pakistan for doing a oil line, an oil pipeline with Iran. And so when you look and you see what's happening, the threat that will alarm the king, the man of sin, is the kingdoms of the north and the kingdoms of the East, the kings of the East. Even look in Revelation, the 16th chapter, in the 14th verse. It shows you again that the man of sin is that the kings of the East will rise up against him. And so, in the East, there's over 4 billion people. 4 billion people on the planet.
They know they must flee when I'm in town.
All right, brothers and sisters. Well, listen. Today, I thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for understanding what we're trying to do. I pray you understand what we're trying to do. And each and every week we'll get better in how we present the news. But it's important to do it from a Hebrew Israelite perspective. And until next time, brothers and sisters, remember this. Don't let the ways of life wash you away. This is your brother, I pray, Yahya Bandele, saying until next time, shalom.
They know they must flee when I'm in town. That's just how you have to know, you have to believe what Yahushua said. They know they must flee when I'm in town. They know they must flee when I'm in town. They know they must flee